is that it tells us the goal of life. See, it starts with kata, distress. What is the distress? It's because we don't know the oneself. And what is that oneself? Is it there in some high heaven? The Kata Upanishad tells us it is everywhere. It returns back into creation and says, the Ashwath tree, it gives the image. Again, we see in the Gita, a lot of interesting images from the Kata Upanishad are in the Gita and also in some other Upanishad like Nayamatma, Baline. All these images come in Shvetashvatara and other Upanishads. So what is this Ashwath tree? Now it reverses. It says out of that creation has emerged. And what you see here are the branches and the fruits and the trees. Roots are at top. So if you want to really understand creation, go to its roots. Otherwise you can't make sense of life. And so interesting that if we don't know the source and origin, we are leading half an existence. Several suggestions come in that. That's why we see in many of these stories, mythological, they start with, what was there before creation. Savitri itself starts with that. It was the hour before the gods awake. The huge across the path of the divine event. The huge foreboding mind of night, alone, in a unlit temple of eternity. So a very pragmatic person will say, okay, this is, I want to know my problem. What's your problem, sir? I have everyday quarrel with my husband or wife. How do I sort it out? He says, that's what it is trying to sort out. What do you mean? Why should I know about the creation and the source? Because when you discover you are that, then you will also discover she is also that. Then your quarrel will cease. Otherwise, you will arrive at a mutual adjustment, accommodation, temporary harmony, quarrels followed by peaceful, because it cannot. By its nature, it cannot. And egoistic consciousness will end up like Vajrashrava, getting angry. You can't help it. That's the nature of the consciousness. So all this mental idealism, sentimental and emotional colors of fancy which we weave around magical names, love is the greatest magic. But it's not born without discovering the one. Because love by its nature leads towards oneness. And unless we know the one, we cannot really experience love. It's a paradox in the highest sense. But when you discover the one, then whole creation you love. Because whole creation has its roots there and it spreads into the cosmos. And then he says, not only in cosmos, now he's reversing the whole thing. He says, even in you, that is there. So close to me, within me, I don't have to go elsewhere. Yes, my child, Nachiketa, you deserve to know this. And I'll tell you where he is seated. That also. What a profound Upanishad this is. He says, in the center of your heart, it is there. And how big is it? A being no bigger than the thumb of man. Angusht Matra Purusha. How beautifully Sri Aurobindo in Savitri describes it. But since she knows, she is the Aditi beyond the manifest and the unmanifest. But since she knows the toil of mind and body and life, as a mother knows and shares her children's lives, she puts forth a small portion of herself. See, the same thing. In the Kata Upanishad is said that, and that is also here. She puts forth a small portion of herself into a hidden region of the heart, a being no bigger than the thumb of man, to face the pang and to forget the bliss. So where do we have to find? One process is by constantly stilling all the parts. This one way. The senses, the objects, the senses. Greater than senses are the objects. Make the objects right. Greater than the objects is the mind. Greater than the mind is the buddhi. Greater than the buddhi is the self. Greater than the self is the unmanifest. And greater than the unmanifest is that. This is one path. But then now he is inclined to reveal to Nachiketa another path. He says, go into your heart. You will find there, subtlest of the subtle, seated within. It is there. It's something you can see. You can become one with. You can experience it. It's forever pure. And it's no bigger than the thumb of man. Now, death also goes on describing very technically. And it says, how is it bound to the body? It has deliberately tied itself to nature. How is it tied to nature? It is tied by 101 cords. It's very, so Sometimes I feel it's a very medical Upanishad also. Katha, distress, death, we all face. Of course, if a patient comes to me and says, I have fever, I can't tell him read the Katha Upanishad. But I can definitely tell him that, look, I understand your distress, take the medicine, but know that you are not just the body, but much more than that. Go deep into your heart, discover that light, that truth, that effulgence, that radiance, that purity, that power, that strength, which is there within you. Go to the doctor, but have faith in that which you are carrying inside. So this is where it says, seek him there. It's there within the heart. So beautifully we see the same thought when Aurobindo in the poem Rishi, written along similar lines. If you want to read, Savitri goes much beyond it. But if one wants to read the Katha Upanishad as in Aurobindo's writings, one of the poems is Rishi. So Rishi tells the same thing. There are many worlds, beyond. And at the end he gives it. Then he says, that has become all these things. At the end he says, seek him on earth. Seek him in yourself. Because, O king, thou art that. Only the night is on thy soul. So, what a marvelous truth he reveals, that you are that. Only it is hidden inside. There is the veil of ignorance. How to tear away the veil of ignorance? Nachiketa, whoever lights your fire, his veil of ignorance will be torn. Whoever recites this at the time of death, this used to be one of the, this Garud Puran, they are one of those which used to be recited during Shraddha. Now, it makes great sense, because imagine that there is, that soul is hovering around. Now we are very fortunate, this august company of seekers doesn't need anything. But let's say in normal life, there is a person who never had any contact with Kathopanishad or any Upanishad for that matter. And the poor soul, tied up in all the trappings of the vital and mental, is still stuck. Oh, my family, my this, my that. And when you read the Kathopanishad, what will happen? It will say, fool, where am I stuck? So it will disengage. That is how the Bhagavad also, 7 days, when Parikshit hears the Bhagavad, not only he is freed, there is the side story that there is a demon who is residing in the bamboo tree. That fellow is by default listening and he gets freed. So I suppose, the reason why it is said in the Kathopanishad that you should recite it during Shraddha is because it has the power to dissolve all the formations. And I feel that there is this power in this Upanishad, that if we read through it, even hastily, it has the power to dissolve all these formations in which we are caught up. Just reading it. So what he is saying is that this is not just an intellectual statement of knowledge, it is also a power. Not all scriptures are like that, not all writings are like that. But here there is a declaration that I have put the power in it, that the mere reading, mere recitation of this Upanishad can free us from the bonds of death. So death is giving away his secret. That you want to be free from me? Now I am telling you there are 3 ways to be free from me. First is discover this individual center of divinity. This is the first immortality. When we discover that, we know that death is nothing but a changing of our robes. We don't need to read it, we know it. What happened when the body died? The car broke down. Maybe a bad accident. It's gone beyond repair. But the master has already paid our price and the second car is already ready. That's how Aurobindo puts it. That, we should not worry about it because already another car has been made ready. What we have to do? He will make us quiet little while, give us nice food, then give us the new car. Complete organ transplant free of cost. New place, new experience. Now drive. Warranty, sir, 85-year-old warranty. What if I abuse the car? Then it's a different matter, sir. Insurance company also tells you, if you drive rashly, don't blame us. But if we drive it correctly, and the correct driving of the car is described in the Kathopanishad, then it will serve its purpose. After that it breaks down, you have another. So this is the first immortality, to discover the secret soul within and light up the fire of aspiration. The second immortality is the universal consciousness. The vast, the unlimited, the illimitable. Not unlimited is a quantitative term. The illimitable cannot die by its nature. So limitation is death. This is the second meaning of death. First is separation of the soul from the body. This is death. This is most elementary. The second is anything which is limited, be it a thought, be it a feeling. That's why all day feelings, thoughts, everything changes. It's all subject to death. So death in its largest sense is whatever is limited, it has a tendency to break the barriers. Why is it doing it? Because we can grow wider. Unfortunately, we don't like it because it means stepping out of our comfort zones. So we don't like people who have contrary opinions. Why? Because my opinion. But if you have a person with contrary opinion, what is it? This is also interesting because this is one crude way of breaking the barrier. This is not the best way. A lot of fight, lot of arguments, not worth it. But still, there is a way. It is trying to break the limitations. And ultimately, illimitable. Because the vaster we become, the closer we are to immortality. That's why the Vedic rishis use the word Satyam, truth, which is eternal, Ritam. It has its own law of becoming. In creation, there is a law of truth. And there is a distortion of that law by falsehood. That's unritam. That's why there is confusion and chaos. Nothing has to go out of manifestation. Thing has to be put in the right place. That is what Rit does. And the third is Vrahatam, vastness. So when we become vast mentally, when our efforts become vast, when our feelings become vast, they are not cloistered into me and mine. But it loves even the body of God in all things. So when we love all beings and all things, then where is the this and that? The barriers break down. The heart becomes vast. Similarly, the life impulsions, when it seeks something vast, not the small transient things. Nachiketa seeks something vast, not more in number, but that state of consciousness where life becomes luminous and free. Then we have again the cosmic consciousness, cosmic vital. And then finally, even the physical, it doesn't touch upon that. That has been left for Mother and Aurobindo, the final touch, because that's the most difficult and nuttiest part. So this is the second immortality. And the third immortality is beyond the individual, beyond the cosmic, is the transcendent. To get into that, which has neither any beginning nor an end. Because the cosmos has a beginning, at least according to the Kathopanishad. This is the beginning. That's how it speaks of. Of course, in a certain sense, we can say there is no beginning because its roots are in the eternal. But we can say that there is a beginning and an end. That's why we talk about the cycles of time and the pralayas. So there is a beginning and an end. But transcendent has no beginning, no end. Obviously, there is no death. So these are the three ways death expounds to Nachiketa to be freed from its own clutches and discover immortality. Last but not the least, which I find very interesting about this scripture, this is something we have grown up in Indian traditions. So whenever a story was told, we used to have this Savitri puja and this puja and that puja in my house. At the end of every puja and story, it used to be, Jaise iska bhala hua waisa sab ka ho. You know, the way Savitri conquered death, may it happen in everybody's life. So, Kathopanishad also ends with that whoever hears this doctrine, he will be freed from the clutches of death. So, it is a power embedded in this. With this we can stop. This is the central elements in this Upanishad. Tomorrow when we have time, we will probably pick up few interesting slokas, few interesting lines or passages. I don't want to speak the slokas because I don't want a single Sanskrit word to be wrongly pronounced. But we'll pick up passages, the translations, definitely, and we'll pick them up. Now we have the images, we'll connect with it and go through each of the cycle in that way. But any questions, any thoughts, any sharing, most welcome.
Sir?
Yes, please.
Somewhere it is said, Atma can neither be created created, not destroyed.
Yes. Yes.